You see that big white elephant? Yeah. That property he lives at? It costs more than the nightclubs. He's in the nightclubs.
Yeah.
We know what they can give you. They can't pay you more than they can pay you because the room can't hold enough people for them to give you the money to stay there. You can stay until you're a squatter, holding on to the leg of the chair that they're moving. But that's what it is. It's just a part of presentation.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. You can see this. You don't need me to say this. You know this.
Yeah.
Look at it. What kind of rich cut his own grass? Why you out there cutting your own grass?
Let's talk about this petty, savage, and straight up hilarious moment that only 50 Cent could deliver. Rick Ross said something slick about 50 Cent's breakup, a girl he not even with anymore, and 50 came back swinging. But instead of matching energy with a typical diss track or some dramatic post, 50 Cent chose to straight up clown Rick Ross in a way only he can. He exposed the real life mess behind the flashy lifestyle Ross loves to flex. And fam, he did it with comedy, savagery, and facts. Let's get into it.
I seen Ross take a shot at you a couple weeks ago about a girl that you're not even with no more. And then, what is it with you and Ross that's just been going on for so long?
I spent it to you, right? Nothing else works for him outside of mentioning me. When things get bad, you mention me. It gets covered further. You'll see TMZ and say, 50 Cent said this is going to be bad for Irv Gotti's career. I get covered across the board. They get covered on the hip hop blogs. It is what it is. And you watch because I have nothing else to say. You just see it happen periodically as it goes. You know, you see that big white elephant? That property he lives at? It costs more than the nightclubs. He's in the nightclubs.
Yeah.
We know what they can give you. They can't pay you more than they can pay you because the room can't hold enough people for them to give you the money to stay there. You can stay until you're a squatter, holding on to the leg of the chair that they're moving. But that's what it is. It's just a part of presentation.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. You can see this. You don't need me to say this. You know this.
Yeah.
Look at it. What kind of rich cut his own grass? Why you out there cutting your own grass? You're trying to save money, nigga? You don't want to pay for the lawn to get cut, huh?
Let me ask you.
The AC broken in the.
Now let me break this down real quick. 50 was being interviewed on $1 Million Worth of Game, and the Ross conversation came up again. At this point, their beef is like a zombie. It just won't die at all. And 50 Cent basically said he only hears about Rick Ross when Ross is talking about him. That's the only time Ross gets traction in the media, according to 50 Cent. In 50's own words, he said, "Nothing else works for him outside of mentioning me." He said it's so calm, but the disrespect was so loud. He even pointed out how every time Rick Ross brings him up, blogs pick it up. Hip-hop pages eat it up, and it gives Rick Ross some temporary buzz. But then it fades away until Rick Ross needs to do it again. Now here's where it gets real disrespectful. The mansion talk. 50 threw heavy shade at that big white house Ross lives in and basically said, yeah, it looks good, but it costs more than the clubs he performs in. Think about that for a second. According to 50 Cent, Rick Ross got a mansion that's worth more money than the venues he raps in. Then 50 made the whole room laugh when he brought up how Rick Ross be out there cutting his own grass. 50 said, "You trying to save money? You don't want to pay for the lawn to get cut?" That's crazy considering Rick Ross has branded himself as the boss for years. 50 was clowning for real, and to be honest, it hit hard because 50 understands the art of psychological warfare. This wasn't just about Rick Ross cutting his own grass. It was about image. It was about 50 Cent questioning whether Rick Ross is really who he says he is. Rick Ross constantly talks about wealth, status, and living like a king. But 50 flipped that whole narrative and painted him as someone who might just be fronting. See, cutting your own grass when you're a multi-millionaire does sound like a humble brag until 50 Cent makes it sound like a budget move. Let's be honest though, this beef been going on for over a decade. It started when Rick Ross thought 50 Cent looked at him funny at the BET Awards, and it spiraled out of control. Diss records, cartoons, child support jokes, lawsuits, they've done it all. But the reason this moment is going viral again is because of how petty it got. That one comment about grass hit harder than 10 diss tracks. Why? Because 50 Cent knows how to make things personal without ever sounding emotional. He didn't yell, he didn't curse him out, he just threw jabs that stung harder because they were so casual. And let's talk about Rick Ross for a second. Rick Ross been living off that biggest boss persona for a very long time. Wingstop, Bel Air, and luxury vibes the whole nine. But 50 just poked a hole in all of that with one single question. If you got all this money, why you doing landscaping chores? This is why 50 Cent is dangerous. He don't just argue. He changes how the public sees you. And once he gets the people laughing at you, it's hard to recover. Ross tried to brush it off with his usual boss talk before, but this time the internet wasn't siding with him. They were clowning him heavy. I'm talking about memes, TikToks, Reels. The internet was relentless on him. Now don't get me wrong, Rick Ross is very successful. He got money, businesses, and a fan base. But when 50 Cent paints you like a parody of yourself, it gets real messy. Ross is a luxury rapper. His brand depends on people believing he's up. So when 50 Cent questions the little things, like whether you're really spending money or cutting costs, it cracks the image. And that's the thing with 50. He doesn't have to beat you musically. He just has to beat you mentally. People will forget your songs, but they won't forget your embarrassment. Especially that kind that goes viral. And let's not act like 50 Cent is lying either. We've all seen that video of Rick Ross mowing that huge field. Ross said that it was therapeutic, but 50 flipped it to sound like desperation. And I get what Ross was probably trying to do. Showing people that he's grounded. Showing people that he works for what he has. But 50 ain't trying to hear none of that. He just gonna keep trolling them. This is why their beef stays entertaining. 50 doesn't forget, he doesn't forgive. If you've ever dissed him, even slightly, he's gonna keep spinning the block. He feeds off this kind of drama, and every time Rick Ross tries to get the last word, 50 Cent reminds him who the real master of petty is. And personally, I think Rick Ross should just stop responding altogether. Every time he does, 50 gets more fuel. And let's be real, Ross hasn't won a single round in this battle, not publicly at least. This moment with the grass cutting comment might have been the final nail in the coffin, because now the world got an image in their head of Rick Ross in a tank top pushing a lawnmower. And 50 sitting back watching it go viral like a supervillain. See, that's his power. He don't have to say much, just one line and it's all over social media. And that's exactly what happened. Now I know some people gonna say, but Ross is real for doing his own yard work. Sure, that's respectable in real life, but hip hop ain't always about real life. It's about perception. When your whole brand is based on being untouchable, lavish, and bossed up, even doing something normal can hurt your image. And 50 Cent knows that. He's a master at flipping narratives. He knows how to make your strength look like your weakness. He knows how to make you look broke without even saying you're broke. He just lets the people run with it. So now the question remains, will Rick Ross clap back or will he finally let it go? Honestly, I think he should let it go. 50 lives for this type of warfare and it ain't a fair fight. If Ross responds, 50 gonna spin it into another joke and the cycle will continue. But if Rick Ross stays quiet, the moment might fade out. Let's be real for a second. The core reason this 50 Cent and Rick Ross beef might not ever end has nothing to do with music, money, or even cutting your own grass. It goes way deeper than that. It's all about credibility. More specifically, the infamous moment when it came out that Rick Ross used to be a correctional officer. Now you already know 50 Cent. Once he finds a crack in your armor, he's going to exploit it forever. And to him, the CO background is the crack that shattered everything Rick Ross ever claimed to be. See, 50 Cent comes from that street certified background. He got shot 9 times, ran with real street dudes, and built his whole identity off authenticity. So when he saw Ross, a guy who raps about pushing weight, being a kingpin, and living that triple beam lifestyle, suddenly get exposed as a former law enforcement employee, it was game over in his mind. 50's never gonna let that go. He doesn't believe Ross is cut from the same cloth. In fact, he said point blank, "How can I respect that? He was a cop." And this ain't about being anti-police. It's about hip-hop rules. Street rappers built their legacies on authenticity. And 50 Cent believes Rick Ross violated that code. It don't matter how good your music is. If your image don't line up with reality, 50 Cent's gonna treat you like a fraud. Now to Ross's credit, he tried to play it off. He called it just a job he had when he was young and broke. He said it wasn't even a big deal and that people shouldn't hold it against him. But 50 Cent ain't buying none of that. He feels like Rick Ross built a career off a lie and stole the real Rick Ross's name while doing it. So to 50 Cent, that's 2 strikes right there. Identity theft and a fake background. And let's be honest, a lot of fans still side-eye Rick Ross for that. They enjoy the music, but some of that boss talk always got an asterisk next to it. So 50 Cent knows that, and that's why he keeps that card in his back pocket. But who knows? This is hip-hop. Pride is a dangerous thing, and these two got history. At this point, they might keep this going until one of them retires. But for now, 50 Cent got the internet on his side again. And Rick Ross, he better hire a landscaper before he goes viral again. Y'all comment down below. What do you think about this crazy beef? Is 50 Cent being petty? Or is he just speaking facts? And does Rick Ross lose points for cutting his own grass? Or is it just being overblown? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss my next video. Peace.